Alright, I would like to do a quick video on Ed's place. Some of the things that Edward Leedskalnin left behind at his first original property. In this video, I'm going to focus on mainly two structures that were left behind at Ed's place. One is the ADM sign. This photo was found at code144.com. If you go to Coral Castle today, you can find these photos in the gift shop. There's another photo that accompanied this one that showed this. I believe that to be the spot where the ADM sign was taken out from. What happened, Coral Castle Incorporated ended up grabbing the original ADM sign from the original site named Ed's Place. I'll read you the article. It was in the Miami News, October 28th, 1986. What's happening? Enjoy a Hallows Eve at the Coral Castle. For most of us, Halloween conjures images of witches, goblins, and colorful trick-or-treaters. But at Miami's Coral Castle, All Hallows Eve will take on a new meaning. From 7 to 10 p.m., Thursday, staff and guests will celebrate the recent discovery and replacement of the castle's original admission gate with an evening of mystical revelations. Psychic fortune tellers and astrologers will be in attendance to perform private readings. Contributions will be collected and donated to a local children's charity. The castle, whose construction has baffled the finest scientists, engineers, and physics, was opened to the public in 1925 in Florida City, but later was moved by its creator, Edward Leedskalnin, to its present site on US 1 and Southwest 286th Street in Homestead. When he moved the castle, he left the original admission gate, which was marked 10 cents admission. Speculators believe he raised the admission price and therefore didn't need the gate. The current owner, wishing to restore the attraction as it originally stood, bought the gate from the present owners. Bought. In other ones I have read that it was donated. To commemorate the recovery of the gate, admission to the castle Saturday will be rolled back to the original admission of 10 cents. Unfortunately, it was not documented where they took the sign from. Ed's original property, they do have pictures up in the gift shop at Coral Castle. On the wall, in a frame, there is some photos. A good friend that has been to Coral Castle shared with me. This is a very clear photo of the photo that is in the Coral Castle gift shop. Clearest one I've seen anyway. I do believe the ADM sign sat right over here beside these stairs. And I'll show you some more stuff into how I came to that conclusion. Another good friend shared with me some photos of Ed's place. And one of the photos that was shared with me is this one here. The friend that shared it with me was not positive where exactly the orientation of these stairs or anything were. It had been so long since they had been there. These pictures were taken quite some time ago. And they were very lucky to get these photos. Now, I compared these steps. Check this out. Now you see where the cat is here? He's standing right about there, or she. You come over and you look at the markings on these stairs. And I believe that's a match. Come up into here. So the biggest thing that got me was this railing, right here. This railing is what nailed it for me. And then in the background, way in here, you will see slats. This would be what I believe is a swimming pool. If you go to Google Earth, it looks like a swimming pool up there. What we're looking at is some sort of patio. I'm not sure exactly how, if it goes all the way around or how it works. Obviously this was a quarry in here. It must have been, right? It had the ADM sign here. We got the stairs going up, and then we go into Ed's place towards his tower. But that's what nailed it for me. It was right there. The railing, and then in here, we have this fence back in here. You look over here, it appears to be the same railing. Appears to be the same fence. Then in behind we have those board slats, which would be that swimming pool. Where the ADM sign is now, they've actually got it facing to the east, which is different than from how Ed orientated it. ADM did not belong on this property, as it was such a great piece. He could have changed, you know, some say he left it behind because he changed the admission price. That's ridiculous, because Ed could have changed the price right on there. He could have made that 25 cents, 50 cents, whatever, if he wanted to. He had the know-how. So I've always wondered if there could be any other reason that Ed left the ADM sign behind. In some overlays, I have compared the admission sign to the top of Ed's obelisk. The profile itself almost matches on one side of his standing obelisk. The other side is a lot thinner. There was an intriguing affidavit that was written. State of Florida, County of Dade. It was written by an Earl S. Lee, 68-year resident in the area of Palm Drive. What he wrote, very intriguing. He says, as a boy in the 1920s, about 1928 and 1929, I was a neighbor of Edward Leedskalnin, and I saw him dig out and raise the large moonstone and set it up, the map of Florida stone, and several of the rocking chairs. When he was digging out the high slender stone, with the star on top that weighs 18 tons, I well remember he broke the first 2 stones. It was on his 3rd try he patiently quarried the masterpiece that still stands today. In the beginning of his quarrying operation of each stone, he would dig a ditch about 18 inches wide around his desired shape. He then would drive lots of wedges all around the stone and break it loose. In prying the stone out of the hole, he would use a small telephone pole. If that was not long enough, he would connect another pole using steel band straps. If the second pole extension was not sufficient to pry it out, he would attach buckets to the end and fill them with pieces of iron. This was the method he used in quarrying all of his stones, all by himself without any help from anyone. Earl S. Lee. April 21st, 1994. He actually witnessed Ed carving this out, trying to pry it loose. You know, this could have been over weeks. But he knows that when Ed was carving out the high slender stone, he well remembers that Ed broke the first two stones. I don't know if he means that Ed broke the first two obelisks, although it says it was on his third try he patiently quarried the masterpiece that still stands today. So it sounds like there was two obelisks that Ed tried to raise before his third one that we all see today. So if you think back to what Ed actually left behind at the property, he left behind this stone here, which is a very tall stone in itself. And there's another stone. If you go to the Coral Castle gift shop, you'll notice this stone up in the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner of the frame. This was also one of the standing stones that Ed left at Ed's place. It is still there to this day. This one's very tall as well. It's actually much taller than the ADM. I really got wondering, since the ADM sign matched this obelisk so well, could the ADM sign be the top, the original first obelisk that Ed carved? Could this be the top? And when he tried to raise it, it broke? And if this was the top, could this piece be the bottom? Another photo here, shared by a friend. And then this photo here was shared by another friend. This is the most detailed you'll probably ever see of this standing stone. This photo here that was shared with me is amazing. Now I'm not sure how tall this stone is. How tall is a fence usually? Maybe we can go off of that. This is a very tall standing stone. So I thought I would compare the actual stone texture and see if it could be a possible match. Could have these two pieces gone together and been Ed's first obelisk before it broke? And from what I can tell, it is very close, isn't it? We gotta remember both of these have been in different environments for some time now. Now that it's been here since 1986 at Coral Castle, the other property, it's probably been bleached a bit, the sun, etc., etc. I also heard that sometime in the past they hired some people to come and clean all the coral, and I don't know if it was a bleach they used something acidic on it anyways, and it tended to pit a lot of the coral and possibly bleach it. The layers of the stone seem to correspond with each other. So I think it is very possible in theory that this may have been the base of Ed's first obelisk, and the ADM sign may have been the top of it and the original star. So thinking about this in theory, if this was, let's say this fence is 5 feet tall, and let's say this guy is 5, 10, 15. It is very possible that this obelisk would have been 22 feet high or so as well. Within the breakage, when Ed was raising it and it broke, we would have lost some height in here. I tried tracing it out in SketchUp, and in SketchUp it kind of turned out looking like that. The break would have happened up in here somewhere. It could be a clue on how Ed was raising it, where he was attaching his ropes and stuff. You can see how different the third obelisk is, and how it's got such an arch here. The profile over here is much the same, I think. Now, this could be a piece of a chunk that broke right out too, right? This could have been linear right through. And when it busted in there, that piece broke off. Ed did not want to waste anything, so he stood this up over here in the corner. Then over here, the ADM sign would have been down in here somewhere. Interestingly, it says drop below, because it certainly did drop below if it was part of what was to be his obelisk, right? Now, if this is Ed's first obelisk that broke, I'm not sure what the second one would be. We do have this stone here that's inside. You come into the entrance of Rockgate Park, and this stone is standing there, and it's got all the rules on the other side. Could have this possibly been another piece, another obelisk? Getting back to this one over here though. If this actually was Ed's first obelisk, it could explain why he left it behind. My thought is, it was his first, I don't want to call it a failure there, but it was the first thing that went wrong. It's one of the first things that went wrong there. Now, he made going with this theory, he was very proud of this ADM. He was also very proud of the foundation he was making for his Sweet 16. All these small stones in this tower, and it goes over here. It's huge. So when he left, possibly after finding out that Irma got married or he got a letter from Irma saying that she was pregnant. That might have been when he just gave up on things. It's possible Ed was like, alright, I'm gonna leave this behind. I'm gonna take my main carvings and everything. I'm gonna build a better place, a bigger place where people are gonna be defooled. I'm not worried about any woman anymore. I am going to make something for the people. After this, Ed said, I left my Sweet 16 behind at Ed's place. So you gotta look at what Ed left behind at Ed's place. If this was the top of Ed's obelisk, his first obelisk, it makes one wonder if he was going to put a hole in here, or did he have a sight hole in here? If we look in the back, it's angled down. The pipe itself is on an angle. I don't know which angle that is. But it makes you think of Ed's telescope and looking up below the triangle, right? What angle is that we're looking? And is this something that Ed had carved? We're looking below the star, whereas in Ed's obelisk that he's got at Rockgate now, we're looking through the star, through here, and there's possibly also a sight marker there, or this was for his wires from his antenna. At Ed's place, he would sit in the crescent moon, but Ed would sit in the crescent of the east, and he would look at this obelisk, which was orientated north-south. When Ed sat in the crescent, he could look through this hole. I don't know what he was looking at, but I'm sure it would tell us what star this crescent is, if we knew. So if this was an obelisk, and it was taller, Ed would have been sitting in the crescent looking through this guide hole here, perhaps. And no, we don't have any evidence of that in the back whatsoever, that's for sure. But if this hole went straight up on that angle, he may have had the same exact star sighted if this obelisk was just a couple feet taller. Maybe Ed had to drop the height of the obelisk just so that he could raise it properly. One thing he certainly did was over here. There's a lot more added on that side, depending how you're going to look at that, right? He's got it slender, very slender going up. His third one is not so slender, but he's still got that profile. You can see the profile of this one. It would have been very slender, like almost reminding one of a clock or something. So if we can verify that this was Ed's first obelisk, then we can also look into how Ed was trying to raise it, and what happened, why it broke, at what spot it broke. I have to send out a huge thanks to my friends who shared with me these photos from Coral Castle and Ed's place. Without them, this would have been impossible to do. It's where the ADM sign was taken from. The ADM sign was here, and it would have stood, up that tall or so. Fairly tall. You can find these photos, some of these photos, at the Coral Castle gift shop. It makes one wonder, why did Ed leave these behind? And my theory is, one of my theories, is it was kind of a sign of his failure, which I don't like to use the word, but it was a sign of things he wanted to forget about. No matter how much he liked his ADM sign, it was all part of Sweet 16. And he wanted to leave Sweet 16 behind. He told people he left Sweet 16 behind at Ed's place. And man, he left so much behind. It's almost like having a death in the family in your home, and you just don't want to live there anymore because you get a constant reminder every day. That's what it makes me think of. So I don't know, let me know what you guys think. One thing for sure is the ADM sign does not belong at Rockgate Park. It was not included in anything, and it's not included in the puzzle. Not at Rockgate Park. Back at Ed's place. It's very important. Nothing was documented very well. And it could be because Ed just wanted to forget about that part of his life. Another interesting thing is Ed was building on this property a couple years, it seems, before he bought the property from Mr. Moser. Very interesting. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for all your time. I think I've covered everything here. This was an interesting one to try and put together. If you go to the Coral Castle gift shop, they got these frames on the wall. And this is where you can see some of the older photos of Ed's place and what was left behind. This is a window in Ed's tower here. This is the top of Ed's tower. This is some of what is left back at Ed's place. He left a lot of stuff behind, you guys. This is the end wall. This is one of his walls that he built that surrounded the place. This is a doorway in the back that goes into the front. This is part of the foundation in this tower here. Part of the foundation from the tower here, and it actually goes over. Okay, so pay no attention to the model itself, as I do have an updated one that will come out sometime. But basically what I'm saying is the admission sign. Right now we are looking south. The admission sign was basically placed here. I do not know how big the raised platform is. I don't know if it's all surrounded, like it's all a raised patio, because so many of the photos we've seen from the front, you don't see any raised patio anywhere. You just see ground, right? So if this was part of the obelisk, if this was the top of Ed's first obelisk, and this was the bottom of Ed's first obelisk, this is facing east-west. The admission sign, we are looking south. It's facing north-south. The obelisk that Ed finally did get up, he also placed north-south. So when he sat in the crescent, I believe he could look through there at the certain star that this obelisk represented. Or could have been looking for comets. We do not know. Nobody knows for sure at this point. Regardless, I did another video where I thought the 8 AM sign was here. It is not. It appears absolutely to be here. Looking south. Drop below.